wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, Sirius XM Channel 83. We have no television today, but that's okay by me. Phone number is 877-757-HERD, 877-757-HERD. Might even take a call today. Jerry West stops by. Frank Isola, New York Daily News on the Porzingis deal that could be certainly percolating. And Mark Medina, LA Daily News and the Lakers joins us, top of next hour. Chris Broussard stops by. Very exciting time. And Christine Leahy's not here. Jenny Taft is not here. Instead, we get veteran newsman John Goulet in the helm today.
Yeah, they even asked the homeless guy outside, and he said no, so they went to me.
Veteran newsman John Goulet. He's our Cronkite. Let me start with this. I imagine most of you have heard about the deal. You know I like the NBA. Talked about it yesterday. It happened after our show. D'Angelo Russell and that awful contract go to the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets give the Lakers a first-round pick and take arguably the worst contract in the NBA off their hands. It's a slam dunk for the Lakers. In salary cap leagues, bad contracts are every general manager's nightmare. They hurt you now, and they inhibit your future. The Mozgov contract was atrocious. He can't play. It's a position that's dying, and he was absurdly expensive. Timofey Mozgov is having a tight family budget and owning a Hummer that doesn't start. He was a pager. He's a VCR. He's a Walkman. And the Lakers got to say yesterday, take a walk, man. Forget every other part of this deal with the Nets. Forget the fact you got another first-round pick. Forget that you got a better center, Brook Lopez, who can actually hit threes. He's a modern center, long, runs the court well, and he's got an expiring contract. Forget all that stuff. The Lakers, in the process of dumping $50 million of that dead money, opened up huge free agent possibilities. They're not done. They still have to tweak the roster to get two maxes, but they will. Listen, the Lakers, when Magic took this job, were trapped. They had two abscessed teeth. They had a cinder block on each foot. They had two expensive SUVs in the garage. Neither started. One is gone, and now you can do with the Lou Aldane contract a little jerry rigging. There's a rule in the NBA that you can space that bad contract out over several years, and it will not inhibit you landing two free agents. Forget the lineup. Just forget the fact that Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Brook Lopez, Julius Randle, maybe a Jordan Clarkson is better than last year. Forget that. Forget the first pick. Forget that first-round pick that could eventually land you Paul George earlier than later. You got rid of an abscessed tooth of a contract, and you had two of them, and you were trapped, and one's gone. That's a home run for the Lakers. But Colin, D'Angelo Russell, yeah, maybe he goes to Brooklyn and he grows up. Maybe he matures. Maybe he feels bigger in the watered-down, weaker East. Maybe instead of being a 3 in L.A., he's a 7 in Brooklyn. But it's still a crap sandwich on better bread. He was never going to be an all-star in the West. Portland alone has two guards who are both significantly better. Golden State, depending on if you like Livingston, maybe has 3. D'Angelo Russell is not a franchise point guard in the West when you feel like Mike Conley coming to town is a break and he's good. He was just in the West, not good enough. It's a little like college football. A good running back in the Big 12 or Mountain West may not stand out in the SEC when you consider the front sevens and the defenses. D'Angelo Russell in the West was never even going to sniff an all-star team. And you got rid of the Mozgov contract. That is fantastic. That is a win for the Lakers. And couple it with this story today. Listen to this. Boy, stuff works quick in the NBA. Jimmy Butler was warned last night to stay away from the Cavs. According to a Cleveland source close to the situation, several of the Cavaliers, Kyrie, LeBron, who have been prodding Butler to push for a trade from the Bulls the last 4 or 5 days, are now warning him to stay away from the suddenly volatile situation. By getting rid of David Griffin, and LeBron went to Twitter, went to social media, and acknowledged, loved him, respected him, the LeBrons and Kyries and Love, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, could be headed for an unforeseen early breakup. Listen, Cleveland, the downside to dating a supermodel, she's always looking somewhere else. Unless you're Tom Brady, she's always looking somewhere else. So that's where we start today. Yesterday was a great, great day to be a Laker fan. And let me give credit, and through the years, I have taken the side of the players. Kevin Durant broke into this league. His owner wasn't loyal. His GM wasn't loyal to James Harden. They fired different coaches. They enabled Russell Westbrook. You get what you can get when you can get it in this league as a player. And let me stand up for Paul George today. He's playing this right. He's given the Lakers leverage. Listen, the Cavaliers can give Indianapolis the Pacers more than LA can. They can give them Kevin Love. The Celtics can give Indianapolis more than the Lakers can. They can give them draft picks. What do the Lakers have to be able to sign Paul George early? What leverage do they have? They have Paul George's comments 2 days ago that I want to be a Laker. Outside of desperate Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, the GM-less Dan Gilbert, most teams, because of that comment by Paul George, are out. Paul George gave the Lakers something they otherwise didn't have because they don't have a star player. He gave them leverage. Paul George is controlling this, and I applaud him. By strongly saying, I will only be a Laker, outside of a desperate Dan Gilbert now, who's going to roll the dice on a one-year player rental? Star players need to take control of their future. The owners take care of themselves. The GMs take care of themselves. And none of us watch the games because of owners and GMs. By star players calling your shot, it scares virtually everybody else away, and it gave the Lakers actual leverage they otherwise did not have. And for the record, fans hate you regardless of how you leave. So control your life. If a divorce is guaranteed to be ugly, take care of you and your kids. Take care of them. That's the problem with fans. They burn jerseys, they yell and scream. Doesn't matter if you leave like Melo did Denver. LeBron left Cleveland or Miami. KD left Oklahoma City. It doesn't matter how much you've done, and it doesn't matter how much you've helped. And it doesn't matter how long of a head start or a warning you give the team. They'll burn your jersey. So if you know you're going into a divorce and you know you're going to get cramped on, then you take care of yourself. And if you're going to be hated, dictate your terms. Star players watch you fans, and you burn their jersey regardless. So Paul George is saying, okay, I want to get to L.A. How do I guarantee I get to L.A.? I scare everybody off. I'm going to be a Laker. So fans created this. When players did it with tact, like Carmelo, when players showed deep concern and confusion, Dwight Howard, when players said, I gave you everything I had, I'm going to Miami, you burn their jersey. Kevin Durant did nothing but give. Even went to Sam Presti, even went to the coach and said, Westbrook's hard to play with. They kept enabling him. You knew it. The stories were documented. He left, you hate him. You burn a jersey. So Paul George's comments have scared off 95% of the league. It gave the Lakers leverage. So Paul George did what star players should do. And star players have simply watched how the fans, regardless of how loyal you've been to the team and how many wins and how many points and how many nights you entertain their families, the fans burn your jersey. So screw them. If you're a star player, Come out, tell people where you're going, and take care of you. Take care of you. I mean, Chris Broussard was on Speak for Yourself yesterday. I mean, he's echoing the sentiments here.
Every time a player has not lived out his contract and instead tells the team prematurely, I want out, it's been a disaster. Dwight Howard, he ruined an entire season in Orlando. Same thing with Chris Paul when he left New Orleans, Carmelo Anthony when he left Denver. You ruined a whole season. What if they can't trade George at the deadline or this summer? Next year will be overwhelmed by the Paul George speculation, and it will ruin a season.
Absolutely. So things are moving quickly here. There's an Armageddon scenario for Cleveland. Cavalier players, LeBron, Kyrie, you can guess are the two big ones, are telling Jimmy Butler, don't come here. And listen, this is why the NBA is fascinating. They just keep giving us stories from their star players. But I'll tell you, if you wake up this morning and you're a Laker fan, it's really exciting. It's really exciting. You got that Mozgov contract out. You got another first-round pick, which could enable you to get Paul George. I'm telling you, by Paul George saying I want to be the Lakers, it really has given him incredible and the Lakers incredible leverage. Really given the Lakers leverage. And I applaud him for it because players can't win regardless of what they give a community and how they leave. Doesn't matter. They're all bad guys, right? You know I'm a big Perky Jerky fan, so much so I invested in the company. Well, now they have 100% grass-fed beef sticks. You can't stop eating them. I challenge you, anybody, to find a better-tasting meat stick. It's not your daddy's Slim Jim. Special offer to try now and save 40% with the offer code HERD. Get it at perkyjerky.com. Best tasting jerky and sticks on earth, guaranteed. Perkyjerky.com, code HERD. Jerry West worked for the Lakers, then he went to Memphis, then he went to Golden State, and now he went to the rival Clippers. I don't hold it against him. Like let's say LeBron left Cleveland. All right. Like, why am I going to hold it against him? Like, I don't give you bonus points for staying in a bad situation. You know, Chris Bosh was in Toronto, and then Chris Bosh is like, I'm going to go to Miami. And then Chris Bosh, I think he's been medically cleared to play. He could end up going. I think he's trying to become medically cleared to play. If he is, he'll go somewhere else. He probably, by the way, LeBron liked him. High IQ, smart guy, big, can hit a jumper. If Chris Bosh got medically cleared to play, I can guarantee you LeBron, wherever, because Chris Bosh is a big city guy. He's not going to Cleveland. He'd go to L.A. I guarantee you LeBron would get on the phone and Chris Bosh would be like, yeah, I'll come if he gets medically cleared to play. So, this is the downside. He got LeBron back, but LeBron has shown us what he is. He's had two stages to his career. There was the first stage, which I'm building my brand. I'm building up my armor. And then the second stage is, okay, now I want to win titles. And the first stage for LeBron was very frustrating. He could not trust Cleveland, and I was the only guy in the American media that I trumped the move, and I totally defended it, and everybody else crapped on him, and I kept saying, why? Everybody else moves. Why can't players move? Owners move their teams. GMs move. Jerry West is now on his fourth, fifth team. So what? Jerry West, somebody came to Jerry West and said, you want to come back? You got a house in Malibu. Here's $4 or $5 million a year. You can validate our brand. We'll pay you a lot of money, probably more than on a day-to-day basis you're worth. But I think that's great for Jerry West. I couldn't be happier for Jerry West. And so if I think I'm just listening, apparently Dan Le Batard, who's very, very tied into Pat Riley. Very, very tied into Pat Riley. And Le Batard, this is a Dan Le Batard, and he gets this from Pat Riley. He said one of the reasons Pat Riley was that angry after LeBron left is because while he was trying to get information from LeBron on vacation, where he's sending him texts, hey, rank these free agents 1 through 5 in terms of how you like them, he not only was not getting any responses back from LeBron, the organization, the Heat, felt LeBron was playing defense against them, getting Pau Gasol. For example, Riley thought he had Pau Gasol locked up and that LeBron was being cryptic with Pau Gasol by texting him, and that spooked Pau Gasol. And that continues. That's something that bears watching right now with LeBron James, said Dan Le Batard. He said, if LeBron's already decided to check out, he would do things like tell Jimmy Butler, hey, don't go there. You're going to get stuck for a lot of years in Cleveland. He would do stuff that would prevent them from being good right away if he's already decided that he's leaving. Again, I'm not anti-doing this. When I was leaving ESPN, I told multiple people in my last 6 months, they're going to start cutting back. They're going to start getting rid of people. They overpaid for the NBA. My bosses now only talk about budgets. They didn't in my first 9 years here. I got no problem with it. Why can the corporation manipulate and scheme, and why can't the players? Why can't LeBron get on a text? What's bad about that? LeBron's taking care of the players. That's why I pay tickets when I go to games to watch. I don't go to watch the general manager. And I think Dan Gilbert's a really smart guy. He got played by LeBron the first time, and he's probably knows he's going to get played by LeBron again. And I think there's an Armageddon scenario that Paul George. Here's where Dan Gilbert's sitting. He's sitting there thinking, if I get Paul George, they could leave in a year. And then I wouldn't have LeBron or Paul George. I'd be stuck with Kyrie Irving. And I think that's what Dan Gilbert's thinking, to protect his franchise. And I think LeBron knows that. And LeBron is leaking to Jimmy Butler, don't go there. Don't. Because Gilbert wants Jimmy Butler. Because Jimmy Butler's got a longer contract. So even if LeBron left, you'd have Jimmy Butler and Kyrie Irving under contract. You could attract maybe in Cleveland, not a hot free agent destination, maybe a decent player. If you sign Paul George, who wants to be a Laker, LeBron and him could be gone. You're stuck with Kyrie, and you've had only Kyrie before. And you would have probably, to get Paul George, traded Kevin Love. You'd have one guy who doesn't play defense, who's really, really spectacularly good on offense, but you're not going to win any games, even in the East. So I think there's an Armageddon scenario here. And I think, that's why I believe you absolutely have to go strong on Paul George. You are Cleveland. You haven't shown a history of drafting well, and you're not a free agent destination. This is what Bill Simmons and I agree with. If you're the Cavs, try to get one more ring. You do whatever it takes to get Paul George.
If you're Cleveland, you're all in on Paul George for 1 year. If he leaves and LeBron leaves, now you don't have to worry about paying Kevin Love $25 million a year to be in the middle of the road if they want to rebuild. It makes sense. And I actually think you put Paul George on the Cavs, they just have a better chance of beating Golden State.
I totally agree. And if you don't get Paul George, because it sounds like LeBron is telling Jimmy Butler, don't come here. So you're down to Paul George if you're Dan Gilbert. I think you got to make it happen. Because if you don't get Paul George, you're not getting Jimmy Butler, and then you have to pray Kevin Durant and Steph get hurt, or you're going to go into the finals next year and get embarrassed. Because Cleveland's old. Golden State's young and in their prime. And, you know, what's funny, if you're a Cleveland fan, you've been dissing Kevin Love for 3 years. You desperately need the Indiana Pacers to want Kevin Love badly today. If you're an Indiana Pacer fan, you've never needed Kevin Love to be more attractive than today. Because if LeBron gets crushed in the finals, he's going to be humiliated. And LeBron knows that MJ was never punished for not getting to the finals. LeBron could say, why not just go to L.A.? It's a better life. We'll build something new. I'm not going to be punished if I can't get past Golden State. People will say, well, LeBron can't get past Golden State. So, David Aldridge is an NBA beat writer. And, he mentioned the word Armageddon. I got this late this morning. It does feel like you could have an Armageddon situation in the next 48 hours with the Cavs and LeBron James.
The city that's not feeling good right now is Cleveland, because this sets up 2018 as Armageddon between the Lakers and the Clippers for LeBron James. I mean, that's the bottom line, is they are both going to be well positioned, I think, by this time next year, to make a run at LeBron James. And the more suitors that are out there that are real suitors, the tougher it's going to be for the Cavaliers to keep him. So, the Lakers, again, whether they get Paul George now or in a year, and there's nothing to indicate that that's not what's going to happen one way or the other, they are now suited to add a second elite player, a second max player, and that's the whole bargaining chip you give with a guy like LeBron James.
Wow.
All 3 hours of The Herd are always streaming on the Herd channel on the iHeartRadio app.
You know, it's funny about what you owe players and what you don't owe players. It's not that I'm not loyal. I am loyal. I've been loyal to a lot of things in my life. But, like, for instance, what does Paul George owe the Pacers? 7 years, never got him an All-Star. LeBron, 7 years in Cleveland, never got him an All-Star. Now, Dwayne Wade goes to Miami out of college. In 7 years, they got him Shaq, Stan Van Gundy, and then Pat Riley. So I would feel Dwayne Wade. I've said, Dwayne, stay in Miami. They've done you well. Aqua Water, Pat Riley, Shaq, good players around you. Dwayne Wade, I would have stayed in Miami. But if I give you 7 years of all-star level play like Paul George, and you don't get me another running mate, I'm sorry. Like Tim Duncan, I'd be loyal. Tim Duncan, in his first 7 years, they gave him Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. I feel loyalty. They gave him great international scouting. I feel loyalty. I would feel guilty leaving if I was Tim Duncan. That would get on a plane and think, that's tough. Dwayne Wade leaving Miami, I'm like, they've done me well, man. Pat Riley did me well. He got me Stan Van Gundy. He got me Shaq. He got me Antoine Walker. He got me an old Gary Payton. They drafted pretty okay. It's not that I'm not loyal. But like New Orleans with CP3, 6 years in, he was a 4-time All-Star, and the best player they got him, Tyson Chandler. You have to hold your employers to a standard as well. They're holding you to one. So Paul George over-delivered. He gave you 2 Eastern Conference Finals, and the second best player was Roy Hibbert, who wasn't even a dominating college center. So the Pacers' big get at the trading deadline was wackadoo Lance Stevenson. So I'm not anti-loyal. If I was Tim Duncan, I would have been loyal to San Antonio. If I was Dwayne Wade, I would be loyal. But, I mean, at this point for Paul George, who cares if he doesn't give Indy? They had you 7 years. They had all sorts of picks. You kept saying, I want this. They didn't get you this.
This is the Herd Podcast.
Like, what is the one thing we know about LeBron? He leaves. He's already done it twice when he feels like trapped or sees a ceiling. If the Cavs don't land Paul George, and that's who LeBron wants. That's why LeBron James is telling Jimmy Butler, don't come here. LeBron's trying to force Dan Gilbert's hand. Get Paul George. That's what LeBron feels like he's doing. He calls Dwayne Wade, who plays with Jimmy Butler, and says, hey, D Wade, tell Jimmy don't come here. That's the story that's out today, that Jimmy Butler's being told by the Cavs don't come here. What that's forcing Dan Gilbert, owner of the Cavs, to do is get Paul George. Now, Dan Gilbert preferably wants Butler, better contract. He's afraid Paul George could come for a year and leave, and LeBron could leave, and he's just stuck with Kyrie Irving. But I think what LeBron is doing here is manipulating the situation. That LeBron is telling Jimmy Butler, don't come here, forcing Dan Gilbert to go get Paul George. Because Dan Gilbert feels pressure like, if I don't get Paul George, and now LeBron's talked Jimmy Butler into not coming. If I don't land Paul George, A, you might as well fit the Warriors for more rings, and B, LeBron's out. So LeBron's just manipulating this. This is what LeBron does. I have no problem with it. Owners manipulate things. GMs do. Commissioners do. I have no problem with star players manipulating a situation. None at all. The man manipulates all the time. The employee should be able to do it occasionally. And so I think the read here is LeBron got into the ear of Jimmy Butler and said, don't come, forcing Dan Gilbert to get the player that LeBron wants, Paul George, for a one-year rental. And Dan Gilbert is reticent to do that. He's worried that Paul George would go and be a Laker with LeBron, or just leave himself, and he's stuck with LeBron, older, Kyrie, looking to retire eventually pretty quick. So I think it's just LeBron doing what LeBron does. And I think from Indiana's perspective, Cleveland can give him more. I mean, if I go to Herb Simon and say, I got you Kevin Love or a bunch of draft picks from the Lakers and Julius Randle, you're not getting an extension if you're a GM. You're not getting that $1 million extension giving you late first-round draft picks in Jordan Clarkson. You got to get the most you can get. Your loyalty as a general manager in the NBA, your loyalty is to your owner. That is your loyalty. Your loyalty is to your owner. Herb Simon wants to see something in return. And Kevin Love in the East, he's been marginalized with the Cavs. He'll go 22-11, and he's an all-star. I mean, he's better than Al Horford. I know that. And people like Al Horford. He's better than Al Horford. He's not the Greek freak, but he's pretty good. He's pretty good. Better than Tristan Thompson. You start looking at better than Kelly Olynyk. So all this stuff's really interesting. I love. Yeah, I saw this too. Richard Jefferson, smart dude, veteran player, friend of LeBron, said the Cavs, quote, shocked by David Griffin's excellent as GM. Compared him to Theo Epstein as a GM. Well, that's LeBron talking. That is LeBron talking. So again, this is all pretty transparent. Richard Jefferson, LeBron James, friends, both coming out. Cannot believe the general manager who's as good as Theo Epstein is gone. That is setting up an exit. And I don't feel bad for Cleveland. Listen, Cleveland, you cried when he left. You celebrated when he came back. And you'll cry again when he leaves. You're Cleveland. He's a supermodel. I mean, you knew. Sometimes you get lucky in life, date somebody over your head. You knew the story. Not staying there forever. You got your title. You had a fun 3 years. You got your title. I mean, that's as good as you're going to get. So I don't, you had fun. You're winning a lot more basketball games than everybody else not called Golden State. So I don't feel that terrible for you. I don't know. I think you go, if you're Cleveland, I think there's only one answer here. I think you go all in on Paul George. That's what Bill Simmons said yesterday on the show, is that I think, so what if you lose Kevin Love and get Paul George for a year? You're Cleveland. Get another ring.
If you're Cleveland, you're all in on Paul George for 1 year. If he leaves and LeBron leaves, now you don't have to worry about paying Kevin Love $25 million a year to be in the middle of the road if they want to rebuild. It makes sense. And I actually think you put Paul George on the Cavs, they just have a better chance of beating Golden State.
It's funny. I'm reading a quote from Dan Le Batard, who knows Pat Riley very well. And they say, if this is Le Batard this morning, if LeBron's already decided that he's checked out, he would do things like tell Jimmy Butler, don't go there, you're going to get stuck. He would do this stuff that would prevent them from being good right away. Listen, man. LeBron has made owners in this league a fortune. Don't kid yourself. You took LeBron out of the NBA right now. How unwatchable would the East be? What, John Wall's your best player? You got to be kidding me. Washington is 26th in local TV ratings. Washington's 23rd in local attendance. I mean, I'm sorry, but the Greek freak, John Wall, they're not moving the meter. They're not moving the needle. LeBron has made this league, its owners, its commissioner, a fortune. So I don't have a problem with this stuff. I really don't.
Catch the Herd from noon to 3 Eastern on iHeartRadio and FS1.
Chris Broussard stops in studio. It's so great when I just do radio. You can wear sweats and stuff. It's such a great freedom, isn't it?
You get to see how I really roll.
That's how I roll. I went home yesterday and I watched 3 hours of The Keepers on Netflix. Do you have a show right now you're watching?
No. I did just watch a good Netflix movie, Burning Sands, about pledging fraternities, black fraternities, and it was pretty harrowing. I pledged a black fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi, and it's tough pledging a black fraternity.
Why?
Because you get physically hazed. It's not supposed to be that way now, so hopefully it's stopped. But yeah, you.
So you were a
it's
frat.
Tough.
You were a frat guy.
Yeah. I was a frat guy.
I wasn't. I told you I grew up.
Does that change your perception of me?
No, I grew up poorer than you did.
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, I did.
I wasn't silver spoon, but I had a spoon. I was middle class, staunchly middle class.
Good for you. Chris Broussard at Chris_Broussard. He's our NBA guy. Also has Fox Sports Radio Sunday, 4-hour show, 1 to 5 Eastern. All right, let's go through a list of things. Boston and Gordon Hayward. What's happening?
Well, there are a lot of people around the league think it's done, he's going there. But Utah feels confident that they're keeping him. So I think ultimately it's still kind of where it was a few weeks ago, where people don't know exactly what's going to happen. I think a lot of it depends on what happens with the draft. If you take Jason Tatum or Josh Jackson, does that, lead you not to spend that money on Gordon Hayward?
Well, does it affect what's the Porzingis situation? Would you make of those rumors?
Well, what happened was this. Obviously, Porzingis is not happy there.
Right.
He didn't meet. We know he didn't meet with the Knicks for an end-of-season meeting. So, rightly so, teams around the league are saying, hey, maybe this guy's available. And so they started calling the Knicks and offering some good stuff. I'm told, I don't have the specifics, but I was told that they actually got some pretty good offers. The Knicks were looking at it like, we're going to listen, but it would have to be something that completely blows them away to give up on Porzingis. So I'm told it's not happening, although, you never say never. It had to be a great deal. But they still have a problem, even though they're going to keep Porzingis from everything I'm hearing.
Yeah, bad contracts and no draft picks.
Well, beyond that, Phil Jackson, there's still a problem there with him and Porzingis. And Porzingis doesn't like the way things are being run and some of the way Phil acts. And obviously his situation with Melo. Porzingis is looking at Melo as a star in the league. He'd love to be Melo one day. And he's seeing the way he's being treated. So, but they're going to trade Melo. That's going to happen too. They're not going to buy him out. So the talk about the Knicks buying him out, him going to Cleveland for the minimum, that's not happening. But he will be, good chance he'll be moved. They're really intent on that.
Okay, I'll throw my theory out, and I've given this to everybody. Stories today that Jimmy Butler's being told by Cavaliers stay away. This is LeBron's way of forcing, because LeBron called D-Wade, gave that information, tell Butler don't come here. It's LeBron's way of forcing Dan Gilbert to get Paul George, who he doesn't want to get because he'll be gone in a year. But LeBron is forcing because he thinks accurately that Paul George matches up better with the Warriors. And so LeBron, in the ear of Butler, says, don't come here, forcing Gilbert to have to bring Paul George in.
Wow. I hadn't thought – look, it's interesting. The Cavs are still in play for both of those guys. A few people have told me, like, nobody's confirmed to me that Butler is being told don't go there. So those two guys are still in play. Indiana and Chicago don't want Kevin Love. Neither one of them. They don't.
So that's an edge for the Lakers, because I thought Kevin Love's a lot better than what the Lakers offer.
I'm with you. If I'm Indiana, I'm happy to get Kevin Love as a consolation prize for Paul George. From what I'm being told, they don't want Kevin Love. That's why Cleveland is also trying to engage Phoenix.
Okay, now Phoenix is an interesting player. They have multiple draft picks, and by the way, they got to start winning games there.
Yes.
They have to start.
Enough for the rebuild, right? Yep.
So do they like Kevin Love?
Yeah, they like Kevin Love, and I love Kevin Love there. I mean, like Kevin Love, Devin Booker. If I'm them, I'd like to keep Eric Bledsoe with Booker and Kevin Love. But they could end up moving Bledsoe. He could end up being a guy that goes to Chicago or to Indiana. But yeah, Love is just what the doctor ordered in Phoenix. I mean, he go there, he give them good numbers. What would they give the
Pacers?
Well, I personally, the talk is of the fourth pick. I don't know if I see Phoenix giving that up.
The fourth pick and some player for Kevin Love.
Maybe Bledsoe, that's a lot to give up for Kevin Love. But Kevin Love is probably better than what you may get with that fourth pick.
If I'm Kevin Pritchard and I run the Pacers and I can go to Herb Simon.
You can get the fourth pick, right?
I get the fourth pick and Eric Bledsoe?
Yeah.
That's better than what the Lakers are offering me.
I totally agree. I don't think, unless the Lakers are giving up the 2 or Brandon Ingram, which I wouldn't do for Paul George, then I don't like what they have to offer if I'm Indiana.
What did you make of the Lakers situation yesterday, what they did?
Look, I have to give it to Magic and Rob Pelinka. They're doing a great job so far, right? Don't you think?
Listen, that Mozgov contract was owning a Hummer that doesn't start.
Yes.
It was an abscessed tooth. This position's dying. He can't play, and the contract was awful. I mean, Brook Lopez can play. He's actually a modern center, and he's done in a year.
Exactly. That's the main thing about it. If I had to keep, now he's way better than Mozgov.
Oh, God, not close.
But if I had to keep him long term, I might be a little hesitant on that, Lopez. But to your point, he's got 1 year left. And if he has a great year here, maybe you keep him.
Restructure it.
Yeah. But they have enough room now to get Paul George and another superstar. D'Angelo, we know where it was headed with him. I'm surprised Brooklyn wants to kind of turn over the franchise to him. We know how much, he loved L.A. Is he going to be a problem in New York?
If he loved L.A., then work out, grow up, and be a better player.
Yeah. Look, he's still got talent.
Yeah.
And he's actually a very good, I don't want to say cautionary tale, but just how much we hype these draft picks. Remember 2 years ago, everybody was in love with D'Angelo Russell. Last year, everybody's in love with Chris Dunn. And now they're trade bait.
You know what happens? I've heard this from scouts. The problem in college basketball is coaches dominate the flow of a game. So was D'Angelo Russell good? How much was Thad Matta? How often was D'Angelo allowed for a 7-minute stint on the floor to do anything he wanted? The NBA is overwhelmingly let guards control the tempo and the plays. You don't hear a lot of coaches barking stuff until you get to the end of quarters, end of games. But what happens now is like D'Angelo Russell comes out, and how often does Thad Matta let him go up and down like 12 times? So you don't get that freewheeling guard. Like Chris Dunn's been surprising, but D'Angelo Russell comes in, and now you're like, okay, dude, in the NBA, you need to be really like the quarterback.
Yeah.
He'd never been a quarterback in college.
That's a great point.
Thad's the quarterback.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so Paul George, if I said to you, All-Star break, where's he playing?
I'm still going to say, I may be wrong. I'm still going to say Cleveland.
That's what I think.
I'm going to say Cleveland. And I don't dislike your theory. I don't know that LeBron is, in Butler's ear, hey, don't come here. But
LeBron wants Paul George.
They do like both.
Yeah, but Butler doesn't match up with Durant.
I agree. I would take Paul George. And I also heard that they'll have some interest in Tony Allen.
For what?
Well, just as a free agent. As not necessarily a starter, but I like that. If they get Paul George and you bring in Tony Allen as a defensive,
no, that's
defender.
a real team.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, a defender. So
now
he's not a huge pickup, but he's a good pickup.
I can play Tony Allen
Golden
18
State.
minutes against Steph Curry.
Oh yeah,
he's physical as heck.
Yep. And he's giving Golden State problems in the playoffs with Memphis. So I'm gonna say George ends up in Cleveland. And again, Cleveland's confident that if they get him there. And you go to the final, we know they're going to the finals. You win it or you lose in a tough series, that they think they'll keep him.
7 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, 4 Pacific, Fox Sports Radio. Broussard, Gottlieb, Meta on their draft show. Good seeing you, bud. What do the wise guys wear? I get asked that from time to time. The answer is the new gear from the HerdNow.com merchandise store. We are now officially open for business. We have all the apparel diehard Herd fans need to represent the show. Go to theherdnow.com. If you don't, that's a you problem. And that's a you problem is one of our shirts. Check it out, theherdnow.com. The HerdNow.com store is open for business today.